Did you know that a staggering 75% of people who've been through the hell of narcissistic abuse develop what the experts call hypervigilant behaviors? Now, to the folks on the outside, these behaviors can look downright crazy, erratic, paranoid. But here's the shocking truth: they're not crazy at all. They are some of the most sophisticated, intelligent survival mechanisms you could ever imagine. Today, we're diving deep into the hidden world of recovery from narcissistic abuse. This isn't about pointing fingers or wallowing in victimhood. This is about getting real about what it takes to survive. We're going to talk about why good, smart, capable people just like you, start doing things that seem strange to others. I'm talking about behaviors that you might even be hiding, ashamed of, or confused by. Let's get into the science of it for a minute, because I don't want you to just take my word for it when your brain is under constant threat. And let's be clear, living with a narcissist is living in a war zone. It rewires itself. Your nervous system goes into overdrive. It's not a choice, it's a biological imperative. Your brain's number one job is to keep you alive, and it will create any defense system necessary to do that. This isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of a brain that is fighting like hell for you. These behaviors are your mind's desperate, brilliant attempt to find some semblance of safety in a world that has felt anything but safe. Now, I want you to think about this for a second and be honest with yourself. Have you ever found yourself doing something that others might think is odd, but in that moment it made you feel safer? Maybe it's checking the locks 5 times. Maybe it's rehearsing a conversation in your head a dozen times before you have it. Maybe it's something you've never even admitted to anyone else. I want you to drop a comment and let me know what that looks like for you, because I guarantee you, you are not alone in this. This is a conversation, and your story matters. In the coming chapters, we're going to break down 7 of these highly specific, unusual behaviors. We're going to talk about the constant need to document everything. We'll cover strategic social withdrawal, why you're not being antisocial, you're being protective. We'll get into the information gathering obsession, the control rituals, the environmental scanning, the endless testing of new people, and so much more. Why is this so important? Because you cannot heal what you do not understand. You've been told you're too sensitive, overreacting, or making things up. You've been gaslit into doubting your own sanity. Understanding that these behaviors are not character flaws but battle scars is the first, most critical step toward healing. It's how you start to reclaim your power and your narrative. We're setting the stage right here, right now, to shatter the stigma around trauma responses. These aren't quirks. These aren't personality defects. These are the strategies that got you through an impossible situation. They were your armor. And while the goal is to eventually be able to set that armor down, first you have to honor it. You have to understand why you needed it in the first place. So, stick with me. We're just getting started. All right, let's talk. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. Some of the smartest, most successful people I've ever worked with, people running companies, raising families sharp as a tack, keep detailed records of every conversation, every interaction, every single day. And I'm not talking about a cute little diary with a lock on it. I'm talking about a meticulous evidence grade file on their own life. Now, why would a person do this? It's not because they have a great memory or because they're aspiring to be a court stenographer. They do it because they have been forced to become the sole, unimpeachable witness to their own reality. This is one of the most common yet misunderstood survival tactics of people who have endured narcissistic abuse. They become obsessive documenters. Let's get one thing straight: this isn't about scrapbooking. This is about sanity. The number one weapon in the narcissist's arsenal is gaslighting. Gaslighting is a vicious, insidious form of psychological warfare designed to make you question your own perceptions, your memory, and ultimately your sanity. They will look you dead in the eye and deny something they said 5 minutes ago. They will twist your words, rewrite history, and tell you you're crazy for remembering the truth. By the time a narcissist gets done with you, you'll be doubting your own damn name. So, what does a sane mind do when it's under insane attack? It fights back with facts. It starts to collect proof. This is where the documentation comes in. We're talking about saving screenshots of text messages, keeping a hidden journal with dates, times, and direct quotes, making secret voice recordings of conversations, taking photos of objects they move to prove you're not forgetful. There's a huge difference between healthy record keeping and this kind of trauma-induced documentation. A healthy person might keep a journal to process their feelings. A survivor of narcissistic abuse keeps a journal to prove they're not imagining the abuse. One is for self-exploration, the other is for self-preservation. One is a choice, the other feels like a necessity. This compulsive need for proof is a direct result of having your reality systematically dismantled. You're not just writing things down, you're rebuilding the very foundation of your perception, brick by evidentiary brick. Now, here's where it gets complicated. This documentation can be a safety blanket. It can be the one thing that keeps you grounded. When the gaslighter says, "I never said that," you can look at your notes and know, yes, you did. I'm not crazy. In some cases, this evidence is actually protective. It can be used in court proceedings with therapists or to show trusted friends the reality of what you're enduring. But there's a dark side. When does this safety blanket become a cage? It's when the documentation keeps you tethered to the trauma. It's when you spend more time reviewing the past than living in the present. It's when the habit continues long after the abuser is gone, and you find yourself unable to trust anyone new without building a secret file on them. The very tool that kept you safe can begin to rob you of your peace. And that brings us to the long-term impact. How do you build new, healthy relationships when your brain has been trained to look for lies and collect evidence? How do you learn to trust your own judgment again without needing a folder full of screenshots to back it up? This is the hard work of healing. It's about learning to slowly, carefully let go of the need for constant proof and begin to trust that new, solid ground you're building. It's about recognizing that the documentation served its purpose. It got you through the war. But now it's time to learn how to live in peacetime. Here's what most people don't understand about abuse survivors. When they start avoiding social situations, they're not being antisocial, they're being strategic. They're not pushing the world away because they don't like people. They're creating a fortified perimeter to protect their own sanity. This isn't rudeness, it's emotional risk management. Let's be crystal clear. The social withdrawal you see in a survivor is a highly calculated act of self-preservation. After living in a state of constant alert, where every word could be a trap and every mood shift a threat, the idea of navigating a social gathering can feel like walking through a minefield. It's not the people they fear necessarily. It's the potential for chaos, the unpredictability, and the sheer exhaustion of it all. Think about it. Why does a large group feel so threatening? Because for a survivor, a room full of people isn't a party, it's a complex threat matrix. Their brain, rewired for survival, is unconsciously scanning every face, decoding every tone of voice, and analyzing every piece of body language. Is that person angry, or are those two whispering about me? Is that person's energy like my abuser's? This isn't paranoia. It's a deeply ingrained software program running in the background, and it is absolutely draining. And that brings me to the exhaustion. Maintaining a normal facade in a social setting when you're screaming on the inside is one of the hardest things a person can do. It's a performance. You're smiling, you're nodding, you're making small talk. But behind that mask, you're managing triggers, fighting off flashbacks, and suppressing a panic that's always simmering just below the surface. Every minute of that performance costs an immense amount of energy, and eventually the cost becomes too high. Retreating isn't weakness, it's energy conservation. Survivors become masters of environmental assessment. Before they even agree to go somewhere, they're asking questions. Who will be there? How loud will it be? How long are we staying? Is there an easy way for me to leave if I need to? They are assessing the environment for potential triggers before they even step foot in it. They're not being difficult, they're being smart, they're treating their peace of mind like the precious, fragile resource it is. Now, we have to draw a bright line between healthy solitude and problematic isolation. Healthy solitude is choosing to spend time alone or with a very small, trusted circle because it recharges you. It feels safe, calm, and restorative. Problematic isolation, on the other hand, is when fear is making the decisions. It's when your world shrinks down to your own four walls, not because you want it to, but because the thought of leaving is too terrifying to bear. Solitude is a sanctuary, isolation is a prison. So how do you get out of the prison without walking back into the war zone? You start small. You create what I call microsocial circles. This isn't about diving back into the deep end. It's about finding one or two people who feel safe, people who don't drain your energy, people you don't have to perform for. You have coffee with one trusted friend. You have a quiet dinner with a safe family member. These are the stepping stones back to a larger world. It's about teaching your nervous system, one safe interaction at a time. That connection doesn't have to equal danger. The red flag that your withdrawal has become problematic is when it completely cuts you off from your support systems. It's when you stop talking to the very people who can help you heal. When the shield you built to protect yourself becomes a wall that no one can get through. That's when it's time to ask for help to build a gate. Acknowledging the strategy is the first step. The next is learning when and how to lower the shield, even just a little, to let the right people in. I've worked with clients who can tell you everything about a person within 5 minutes of meeting them. And folks, this isn't nosiness, this is survival intelligence. This is a mind that has been trained, conditioned, and honed by trauma to detect threats before they can strike. We're talking about a level of observation that would make a CIA agent proud. So how does this happen? How do survivors of narcissistic abuse become human lie detectors? It's simple when you've lived with someone who lies as easily as they breathe. You learn to stop listening to their words and start paying attention to everything else. You learn to spot the flicker in their eyes when they're being deceptive. You notice the slight change in their tone of voice, the shift in their posture, the sweat on their brow. Your brain becomes a finely tuned instrument, calibrated to detect the slightest dissonance between what is said and what is true. You had to learn this. Your safety and sometimes your very life depended on it. This skill then gets turned outward onto the world. When you meet someone new, your brain's threat detection system goes into overdrive. This leads to a compulsive need to research new people who enter your life. Before a first date, you're not just looking at their profile pictures. You're cross-referencing their name across every social media platform. You're looking at who their friends are, what they post, what they've been tagged in. You're looking for inconsistencies, red flags, anything that doesn't add up. Let's be clear, this isn't casual social media stalking born of simple curiosity. This is a safety mechanism. You're not trying to find out if they like the same movies you do. You're trying to find out if they are who they say they are. You're looking for signs of a hidden life, a bad temper, or narcissistic traits. You are conducting a background check because you can no longer afford to take people at face value. You've learned the hard way that the mask people present is often just that, a mask. This intense analysis extends to every conversation. A survivor doesn't just hear the words someone says, they hear the words they don't say. They read between the lines. They analyze every pause, every hesitation, every turn of phrase. A simple question like, "How was your day?" isn't just small talk, it's a data point. The answer is analyzed for its emotional content, its honesty, and its underlying meaning. Now, let's talk about the price of this vigilance. The mental load of this constant threat assessment is absolutely exhausting. Your brain is never at rest. It's always scanning, analyzing, processing, and cross-referencing information. It's like running a high-level security program 24/7. This is why survivors often feel so depleted, anxious, and overwhelmed. Their minds are working overtime just to feel a baseline level of safety that other people take for granted. So, when does this life-saving skill cross into unhealthy territory? It's when the investigation never ends. It's when you can't form a connection with anyone because you're too busy interrogating them. It's when you trust the information you dig up more than the actual person standing in front of you. It's when the need to know everything prevents you from ever feeling anything. The ultimate goal of healing is to learn to trust your intuition over your investigation. Your intuition is that gut feeling, that deep inner knowing that was likely screaming at you from the very beginning of the abusive relationship. The abuse taught you to ignore it, to rationalize it away. The information gathering became a substitute for that silenced intuition. Healing means learning to listen to that quiet, wise voice again. It's about getting to a place where you don't need to see someone's entire digital history to know if they feel safe. You can just feel it. And that right there is true freedom. You want to know something fascinating? Some of the most resilient abuse survivors I've ever met develop routines so specific, so detailed, that changing even the smallest thing can send them into a full-blown panic. We're not talking about simple preferences here. We are talking about life or death rituals that are non-negotiable. So why does this happen? Why do these rigid routines become powerful emotional regulation tools? Let's get right to it. When you have lived through the chaos, unpredictability, and constant emotional turmoil of a relationship with a narcissist, your world feels like it's spinning out of control. You had no say, no power, no agency. The abuser controlled the environment, the conversations, the mood. They controlled your reality. After you escape that, your brain is screaming for one thing: predictability. It is desperate to find something, anything it can control. This is where the rituals are born. They are a direct response to the powerlessness you endured. Let me give you some examples. It might be a morning routine that is timed to the second. You use the exact same coffee mug every single day. You eat the exact same breakfast. You listen to the same song while you get dressed. If that mug is in the dishwasher, it's not a minor inconvenience. It's a catastrophic event that can derail your entire day. It can manifest in how you arrange your living space. Every pillow on the sofa has to be in its exact spot. The books on your shelf are arranged just so. The items on your nightstand are perfectly aligned. This isn't about being neat and tidy. It's about creating an external environment that feels orderly and safe when your internal world still feels chaotic. If someone moves something, they haven't just disrupted your decor, they have breached your security system. It even extends to conversations. A survivor might mentally rehearse a difficult conversation dozens of times, planning out every possible response, trying to control the outcome before it even happens. They are trying to script the unpredictable because they have learned that spontaneous interactions can be dangerous. The psychological comfort that comes from this is immense. In a world that felt random and terrifying, predictability equals safety. If I can control every single element of my morning, then for those first 2 hours of the day, I am safe. No one can hurt me. No surprises can ambush me. These rituals are a way of rebuilding a sense of personal agency. The abuser took all your control away. These rituals are you defiantly taking it back. You are proving to yourself, one tiny controlled action at a time, that you are the one in charge of your life now. But here's the hard truth. There is a very fine line between helpful structure and restrictive rigidity. The routine that once served as your fortress can easily become your prison. It's helpful when it makes you feel grounded. It becomes restrictive when you can't deviate from it without having a panic attack. It's a problem when you can't go on vacation because you can't replicate your routine. It's a problem when you can't have friends over because you're terrified they'll move a coaster. So how do you start to dismantle the prison without tearing down the fortress? You do it gradually. You introduce flexibility in small, manageable doses. You conduct little experiments to show your nervous system that change doesn't always equal danger. Maybe one day, you deliberately use a different coffee mug. You sit with the anxiety, you breathe through it, and you prove to yourself that you are still safe. Maybe you leave the house 3 minutes later than usual. You see that the world doesn't fall apart. These control rituals are not a sign that there's something wrong with you. They are a sign of what was done to you. They are signals from your nervous system that the trauma is still very much active. They are signposts telling you where the healing still needs to happen. Acknowledging them without shame is the first step. The next is learning slowly and with great self-compassion that you are safe enough now to let a little bit of life back in. Walk into any room with a narcissistic abuse survivor, and I guarantee you they've already identified every exit, every potential threat, and every safe person within 30 seconds. They haven't said a word, but their mind has already done a complete tactical analysis of the environment. This isn't a party trick, it's a life-saving instinct. This is what we call environmental hypervigilance, and it is one of the most powerful protective mechanisms a traumatized brain can develop. After living in an environment where a threat could come from anywhere at any time, a sudden rage, a verbal attack, the silent treatment, the brain learns that no environment is inherently safe until it has been thoroughly assessed. This isn't a conscious choice. It's an unconscious, automatic habit of scanning every new room and situation. What are they scanning for? Everything. They're clocking the exits. Where's the nearest door? Is there another way out? Where are the windows? They're assessing the people. Who seems aggressive? Who seems kind? Who is standing too close? Who is blocking the exit? They're even analyzing the layout of the furniture. Can I get trapped in this corner? Is there a clear path for me to leave if I need to? This isn't being nosy or judgmental. It's a subconscious process of creating a mental blueprint for safety. Have you ever wondered why so many survivors prefer to sit with their back to a wall in a restaurant or a meeting? It's not a random preference. It's a strategic position. When your back is to the wall, you eliminate the possibility of being ambushed from behind. You have a full view of the entire room, including the entrance. Nothing and no one can sneak up on you. It is the most defensible position in any room, and for a nervous system that still feels under threat, it's the only place that feels remotely safe. This constant scanning leads to the creation of mental maps. Before they even sit down, a survivor has mapped out the safe spaces and the escape routes. They know where they will go if the conversation gets too intense. They know who they will move toward if they feel threatened. They have a plan A, B, and C for getting themselves to safety at a moment's notice. This is the mind of a brilliant strategist forged in the fires of trauma. But let's talk about the cost of this constant vigilance. The physical toll is immense. Living in a state of perpetual scanning keeps your body flooded with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your muscles are always tense, your heart rate is elevated, and your senses are on high alert. It is physically and mentally exhausting. It's why so many survivors suffer from chronic fatigue, anxiety, and unexplained physical pain. Their bodies are carrying the weight of a war that is, for all intents and purposes, over. This behavior has a profound effect on a survivor's ability to function in the world. How can you be present in a business meeting when part of your brain is busy tracking everyone's movements? How can you relax and have fun at a party when you're subconsciously running threat assessments? You can't. It makes it nearly impossible to connect with people, to enjoy the moment, or to simply be at peace. The very mechanism designed to keep you safe ends up robbing you of the joy and connection you fought so hard to be free to experience. So, what's the way out? You can't just turn it off. Trying to force yourself to relax will only make you more anxious. The key is to gradually teach your nervous system that it is safe now. This is done through grounding techniques. It's about consciously bringing your attention back to the present moment, feeling your feet on the floor, noticing the color of the walls, focusing on the sound of a friendly voice. Each time you do this, you are sending a message to your brain that says, the threat is over, you don't have to scan anymore. We are safe right here, right now. It's a slow process of retraining your brain, one safe moment at a time, to finally stand down. Here's something that might shock you. Healthy people don't constantly test whether others are telling the truth. They don't set little traps or create loyalty exams for their friends and partners. But abuse survivors, they've learned from the master of deception that everyone might be lying, and so they become reluctant, secret examiners of everyone who gets close to them. Why on earth would a survivor who craves safety and honesty develop these elaborate testing behaviors in new relationships? It's because their reality meter has been shattered. After being gaslit, lied to, and manipulated, their ability to trust their own judgment is in ruins. They no longer believe what people say, so they start testing what people do. It's a desperate attempt to find out who is real and who is just another actor playing a part. Let me give you some examples of what this looks like. A survivor might tell a small, insignificant lie, something that doesn't hurt anyone, just to see if the other person calls them out on it. They're not trying to be deceptive, they're testing the other person's integrity. Will you tell me the truth, even when it's uncomfortable? Another common test is deliberate vulnerability. A survivor might share a small, sensitive piece of information to gauge the reaction. Will you handle my heart with care? Will you use this information against me later? Will you keep it safe? Every reaction is a data point that gets filed away. This behavior is fueled by a bottomless need for reassurance and validation. When a survivor asks, "Are you mad at me?" or "Do you still love me?" for the 10th time, it's not because they're insecure in the way most people think. They are asking for a reality check. The narcissist created a world where love could be withdrawn in an instant, where anger could appear out of nowhere. The survivor is constantly checking to see if the ground beneath their feet is still solid. They need you to validate their reality because they haven't learned to fully trust it themselves yet. Remember how we talked about survivors becoming human lie detectors? This is where that skill gets put to the test. They become hyper-attuned to reading micro expressions in body language. They're watching to see if your eyes match your words. Does your smile reach your eyes? Did your posture just shift when I asked that question? They are looking for the slightest crack in the facade, the smallest sign of deception, because that's how they survived before. But this creates an absolutely exhausting cycle of doubt and verification. The survivor is in a constant state of anxiety, always looking for clues, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And let's be honest, it's exhausting for the person being tested too. No matter how patient and understanding they are, constantly being under a microscope can feel like an accusation. This is where this survival strategy becomes self-sabotaging. The very behavior designed to protect the survivor from getting hurt again can be the thing that pushes good, honest people away. Healthy relationships cannot be built on a foundation of suspicion. Trust cannot grow in a field that is constantly being dug up to check the roots. The tests, meant to prevent heartbreak, can end up creating it by damaging the very connection the survivor so desperately wants. So what's the path forward? It's about recognizing that you cannot test your way to trust. True trust isn't built on passing exams, it's built on shared experiences, consistency over time, and a willingness to be vulnerable without demanding proof of safety first. It's a leap of faith. And the most important part of that leap is learning to trust yourself again. It's about rebuilding your relationship with your own intuition, that gut feeling that you were taught to ignore. When you can trust yourself to walk away if something feels wrong, you no longer need to test everyone else to see if they're right. Now here's the truth that nobody talks about. All of these behaviors we've discussed, the documenting, the withdrawing, the scanning, the testing, they saved your life. Let me say that again. Those strategies, as strange as they may seem to the outside world, were your armor, your shield, and your secret weapons in a war you didn't ask to fight. But now it's time to learn when you don't need them anymore. The first and most important step on this path forward is to acknowledge that every single one of these behaviors was adaptive and absolutely necessary for your survival. You need to stop judging yourself for how you got through the storm. You didn't develop these habits because you're flawed or broken. You develop them because you are a brilliant, resilient survivor whose brain did exactly what it was supposed to do. It kept you safe in an unsafe world. You have got to wrap your head around that and give yourself credit. This is where self-compassion comes in. I'm not talking about feeling sorry for yourself. I'm talking about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a dear friend who went through hell. It's about looking at these behaviors and saying, thank you for protecting me. I see you. I understand why you were here. You served your purpose. You cannot heal from a place of self-blame. It's impossible. Healing starts with grace. So how do you move forward? You don't just throw these behaviors away. You don't want to lose the wisdom they taught you. You learn to be observant, to read people, and to protect your energy. Those are valuable skills. The goal is to gradually modify these survival behaviors so they don't limit you anymore. You keep the wisdom, but you let go of the hypervigilance. For example, you can remain an observant person without obsessively gathering information on everyone you meet. You can enjoy solitude without isolating yourself from the world. This is about building new safety mechanisms, ones that support your growth instead of restricting your life. Your old safety plan was based on external controls and constant vigilance. Your new safety plan is built on internal strength. What does that look like? It looks like setting strong, clear boundaries and enforcing them without guilt. It looks like cultivating a small circle of trusted, supportive people you can be your real self with. It looks like learning to trust your own intuition again, that gut feeling that you were conditioned to ignore. Your gut is your new security system, and it's far more effective than any ritual or routine. Now, let me be straight with you. Telling the difference between helpful caution and limiting fear can be tough when you're in the thick of it. This is where professional help is not a luxury. It's a necessity. A good therapist who understands trauma can provide an objective perspective. They can help you see when you're operating from a place of past trauma versus present reality. They can give you the tools to calm your nervous system and challenge the thought patterns that are keeping you stuck. Ultimately, this entire journey is about creating a new normal. It's a normal that honors your experience. It doesn't pretend it didn't happen, but it isn't defined by it. It's a life where you feel safe, not because you've controlled every variable, but because you trust yourself to handle whatever comes your way. It's a life where you can embrace growth, connection, and even a little bit of healthy chaos because, deep in your bones, that you are no longer in survival mode, you are free. So here is my challenge to you. I want you to look back at the behaviors we've discussed. Which one or ones do you recognize in yourself? Be honest, no judgment. Just acknowledge it. Then I want you to commit to taking one small, manageable step toward healing this week. Maybe it's deliberately not checking a new person's social media. Maybe it's sitting with your back to the door in a safe coffee shop for 5 minutes. Maybe it's reaching out to a therapist. Whatever it is, I want you to do it. This is how you move from surviving to thriving, one brave step at a time.